Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Please let's observe a moment of silence in honor of those who have passed away in the earthquakes of Syria and Turkey. Thank you all. May the Almighty bless their souls and aid the wounded for swift healing and recovery. قم للمعلم وفه التبجيلا كاد المعلم أن يكون رسولا. We are here today to honor the legacy of Dean Eugene Gangarosa and Dr. Nadim Haddad, who have made a significant impact on the lives of people who have known them. Dean Gangarosa was the first dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, 1978 to 1981, during the Civil War strife, bringing together nursing, medical technology, environmental health, and public health under one umbrella. Dr. Haddad, an ophthalmologist who was a champion in the public health sector for over 40 years, as community-oriented educator and philanthropist. He played a major role in the initiation of the Masters of Public Health and MPH degree during the 1970s and was the founder of the Department of Health Services Administration, to which he was the chair from 1972 to 1975. He kept supporting the Faculty of Health Sciences and more recently in becoming the first public health institution outside of the Americas to be granted the accreditation by the Council on Education of Public Health, CEF, for its graduate public health program. They were both a source of inspiration, support, and encouragement. Their dedication, work, and selflessness have made them role models for all of us. Their presence had touched the lives of many, and their absence will be deeply felt. Let us celebrate together through this event their life and their memories we have shared with them. I've been asked to, if someone from the audience in presence or online would like to take part in this event, please do leave your comments in the chat box. And now I leave the floor to our Dean. Abla, I'm sorry. This is too emotional. Dean Sibai.
Thank you, Dr. Kasak. Esteemed guests, dear colleagues, friends, and families, good afternoon. It's my great honor to stand here today to pay tribute to two outstanding scholars and remarkable human beings, Dean Eugene Gangarosa and Dr. Nadim Haddad. Both of these exceptional individuals lived to over 90 years. Both made immense contributions in the fields of medicine, public health, education, and philanthropy. And both impacted on the Faculty of Health Sciences and AUB in many different ways. Yet, I will not speak about their unique scholarly achievements or how each have shaped global public health, which other speakers will touch upon. But instead, I will highlight what they have in common that makes them giants in their field and humble human beings. What lessons they are giving us for successful aging and from lives well lived. There are many common attributes, but I will single out four. First, both were visionaries. Both were fighters who turned challenges into opportunities. Eugene Gangarosa's career was set in the 1950s when he was convinced, and I quote from his autobiography, that the most important work in my career was the influence I had with decision makers to leverage country investments into sanitary and water infrastructures, which undoubtedly saved many lives. Years forward, and against the advice of the State Department for Americans not to travel to Lebanon, Dr. Gangarosa joined AUB as the founding dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences from 1978 till 1981. His presence in the plight of the civil war in Lebanon was a beacon of hope to many. And despite the failing economy in the country, he was able to lead the Faculty of Health Sciences into financial stability. A faculty that he described in his memoir, a jewel in AUB's crown. I guess this is still the case until today. Likewise, Dr. Nadim Haddad was famous for challenging conventional thinking and for his intellect outside the box. His classes were always thought-provoking, promoting lively discussions and encouraging critical thinking. Dr. Haddad foresaw the need for public health professionals in the Gulf and for AUB to expand its boundaries outside the walls of the university, and helped establish an outreach program in 1975, the AUB Services Corporation, which later became known as the Rep Office, the hub for regional external programs with thousands of consultancies thereafter, thus playing a great role in shaping the future of public health not only in Lebanon but also in the region. Secondly, both lives were marked with a deep sense of altruism and philanthropy. Both were generous donors with personalities perfused in developing not only individuals but also institutions. Dean Gangarosa contributed to 2 named departments and 3 named chairs at 4 different universities, one of these including the Faculty of Health Sciences. Only last year, Dr. Haddad sponsored a number of MPH students at the faculty to study for a certificate from the U.S. National Association for Healthcare Quality. Thirdly, there was no place for retirement in their dictionary. Age only added wisdom and determination to these extraordinary academics. With a career spanning over 75 years, both Dean Gangarosa and Dr. Haddad were educators and mentors till the very end, inspiring countless students with their unwavering resolve and relentless pursuit of new experiences and achievements. As Dr. Haddad would always say, never a dull moment until the very end. Last but not least, both were surrounded by an abundance of social networks, a strong knit of loving and supportive family members and friends. They both had exceptional partners, Rose and Mona, and children who mirrored their exceptional qualities, and both made lifelong friends with their students and co-workers. May we all be inspired by their example, by their legacies that will endure for generations to come. Let us take a moment today to honor 2 lives well lived. Thank you. May I ask President Khouri, Fadlu, please to come to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Sabai. Thank you, Abla. Friends, guests, family members of our honorands, our deeply departed friends, colleagues, students, thank you all for being here in person or online to help us honor the legacies of Dr. Eugene Gangarosa and Dr. Nadim Haddad in celebrating their lives and achievements. On a personal level, I was fortunate to know both men for many years. They were 2 wonderful university leaders who not only left a great mark on the American University of Beirut, but they really never disconnected from AUB in good times and in bad. Their impact is felt in education, mentorship, on public health in this country through their extraordinary proteges, and not just in this country, in the region and in the world. They were both by nature gentle but determined activists, and it's fitting that the Faculty of Health Sciences continues to be filled with determined activists of the best kind. Dr. Eugene Gangarosa's path in public health took him from World War II, when he served with the U.S. Army Medical Corps in Naples, Italy, and helped to respond to a typhus epidemic. After completing his medical degree and his master's in microbiology at Rochester, He became a junior member of an army team from Walter Reed that traveled to Bangkok, Thailand, to investigate with state-of-the-art research tools back then the onset of the 7th pandemic of cholera, a disease that he would have the, I would say, the determination to pursue throughout his career, including his contributions to AUB, both as a leader and subsequently as a benefactor. But you could say that his dedication to his field, to better health for all, probably started when his mother lost 4 of her first 5 children to childhood diseases. And her only consolation was her priest's comforting words, "Ma adesso sono angeli," but now they are all angels. That later became the title of Dr. Gangarosa's autobiography, a wonderful book. I have an older version still in the US, but well worth reading. Dr. Gangarosa's life really revolved around treatment and prevention for better outcomes for all. His research has been described deservedly as transformational, full of breakthroughs that saved the lives of countless children, but that also inspired many great public health leaders for generations. It's worth mentioning that that research paved the way for the development of an oral rehydration therapy, which saved millions of lives of individuals who became acutely volume depleted. His formal academic career began in 1961. It led him across the globe from the USA to Pakistan, and finally to Lebanon, where, as Abla mentioned, he was the founding dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, and I'll talk about his tie with Nadim Haddad in a minute, in 1978, and he set the foundation for it to become the leading school in this region. FHS at AUB is still the only CEF-accredited graduate and undergraduate programs in the region. We're the only ones that are offered. And that speaks with the enormous oil wealth of some of the countries. It speaks to the fact that public health is still not understood in this region, its value, its importance. He also helped to transform the public health program at Emory, and that was to my great fortune that my good friend Jim Curran, who's the longest serving dean I know of anywhere, a man who disproves that the future of dean is done, I think he was dean for 26 years, would arrange for Lamia and I to be at all the events that Jean and Rose were at Emory. There he helped transform the public health program at Emory into a vibrant school of public health. Now named the Rollins School of Public Health, it's ranked 4th among the schools of public health in the US. But Jean didn't care about rankings, he didn't care about accolades, he cared about people. So his contributions to the world of public health extended to consulting for the World Health Organization, the World Bank, the Surgeon General of the Army in the US Army Medical Service, and Development Advisory Committee, as well as the Department of Agriculture. And this goes on and on and on. I'm going to talk a little bit briefly about his contributions to AUB beyond our Faculty of Health Sciences. Jean and Rose and their family generously donated a total of $2 million to the Faculty of Health Sciences for the purpose of establishing the Gangarosa Family Endowed Chair for Safe Water and Sanitation. He never strayed far from the things that really mattered. He recognized long ago that safe water, sanitation was something the majority of the world did not have access to, and he challenged us to do better. We have just so many reasons to be thankful to the late Dr. Gangarosa and his family, and among them are the people in the audience, in person and online, for whom he's been a mentor, a role model, and so much more. As for our second honorand today, Dr. Nadim Haddad was a long-term faculty member and supporter of FHS and AUB's vision and mission until the very end, and a true champion of the public health sector for more than 40 years. Dr. Haddad pursued his education here. His medical degree is from AUB. His specialty in ophthalmology was at AUBMC in 1956. Of course, back then, it was not yet the AUBMC, which it became formally in 1970. It was the American University Hospital, which he reminded me more than once when I brought up the AUBMC. He said, no, I trained at the American University Hospital. He then earned his MPH degree from Harvard and did his doctoral research at Johns Hopkins between 69 and 70, extending that bridge that Sam Asper and others developed. We can't mention Dr. Haddad without going over some of his many contributions to AUB and FHS coming to mind. When Nadim joined the faculty, the School of Medicine, it wasn't yet a faculty of health sciences in 1963, he founded and chaired the Department of Health Services Administration from 72 and 75, and he was one of the key drivers in the initiation of the MPH degree in 1971. Before anyone has heard of REP, Nadim Haddad helped establish the Office of Business Development, which is what it is again today. It was known for many years as the Office of Regional External Programs. In July 1975, with Dr. Abdul Halab, in response to international demand for AUB consulting and development services, particularly in the area of health services. This was really one of the critical happy children of Lebanon's unhappy journey into the civil war. It was a recognition that we needed to be more proactive in reaching out and not waiting for everyone to come to AUB, to come to Lebanon, for people to learn about what we could offer. Dr. Haddad was vice president of the AUB SCO, which later became REP until 1979. He signed a major agreement with the Bahrain Ministry of Health, which entailed a health manpower development project for Bahrain. This provided an opportunity for the Faculty of Health Sciences, once Eugene had become dean, and its students to participate in a series of public health development programs in the Gulf. Since then, many other health projects, public health projects, have emanated from FHS. During the war, Dr. Haddad and his family took the very difficult decision to leave to AUB in the mid-1980s, but his heart was always remained here at AUB and in Lebanon. He stayed committed to FHS, to AUB, from near and far, and continued to work closely with AUB, helping generate opportunities for students to do research and continuing to mentor MPH students. That accelerated once Huda Zrei became dean. In 2002, when she recruited him, and he rejoined the faculty as coordinator of academic development projects, supporting the efforts of the faculty in seeking accreditation. Here he used his rep or business development hat and his public health hat to expand the role of AUB. His legacy at AUB lives on through the Dr. Nadim Haddad MPH Academic Achievement Award, which is granted to MPH graduates in recognition of excellence in academic performance in the Masters in Public Health. He has many additional meaningful contributions to AUB, but one of the ones that was near and dear to his heart was his quiet and generous sponsorship of 11 remarkable MPH students who graduated in spring of 2022 in the HMPD degree to receive their certified degrees in healthcare quality from the U.S. National Association for Healthcare Quality. It's so much more that we could say, but as Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. These two individuals were willing to have their lives examined again and again, never to rest on their laurels, to continue to challenge convention and understanding. There's so much left unsaid, but I think it's fair to state that Nadim Haddad and Eugene Gangarosa are permanent members of the AUB family. Their roles, their contributions to the university's legacy, its mission, and its heritage are indelible and permanent. So I'd like to close by thanking the Faculty of Health Sciences, Dr. Nadim Runful, for making sure that we celebrated these two extraordinary individuals who will forever remain pioneers and leaders for our AUB family. To the families of Eugene Gangarosa and Nadim Haddad, to their partners, their children, their grandchildren, they've left a legacy, I believe, that we can all be proud of and that will remain with all of us for the rest of our days. Thank you.
Through photos and personal anecdotes, We will take you on a small journey through their lives and careers. We will then hear from those who have closely worked and collaborated with them, and listen to stories and testimonials from colleagues, friends, peers, and students who have been personally impacted by Drs. Gangarosa and Haddad.
Good evening, everyone. On completing doctorate studies in the field of public health, Drs. Haratun Arminian, Nabila Rumful, and I joined in July 1974 the School of Public Health at AUB, Faculty of Medical Sciences, which also included the schools of medicine and nursing. We soon came to know of an impending change in the leadership, status, and organization of our school that brought us positive expectations accompanied by some anxiety. Dr. Eugene Gangarosa, an MD whose prominent work career centered on public health in the US and internationally, was about to take the helm as Dean of a new Faculty of Health Sciences, which included the schools of public health and nursing, while medicine became a faculty on its own. As a junior faculty member at the time, I did not realize the full potential for growth that this momentous change could bring to public health at AUB. Reflecting back now, with the hindsight and experience of 45 years, I find that the independence granted to public health away from the far larger Faculty of Medicine gave Little Sister the chance to grow her own identity and develop her role as a complementary field of study which is highly needed in Lebanon and the region. A second significant initiative of Dean Gangarosa that later grew into a landmark for public health at AUB was the support he gave to interdisciplinary engagement inside and outside FHS. It was interesting to find out from his memoirs that Dr. Gangarosa did not know when he initially agreed to join AUB as Dean of FHS that FHS would also include the School of Nursing. I believe that what helped Dr. Gangarosa to surpass this surprise quickly and positively was his keen appreciation of the holistic nature of the concept of health. Engagement with an equal number of nursing faculty in one FHS allowed discussions and collaborations to emerge that widened perspectives and deepened understanding of common grounds. Dean Gangarosa also sought contributions of social scientists from the Faculty of Arts and Sciences to teach within the public health curriculum, while also growing the many valuable collaborations with medicine. This innovative interdisciplinary orientation has grown and matured over the many years of life of FHS to become a cornerstone of teaching, research, and practice. Dr. Gangarosa tells in his memoir that a prominent aim for him as dean was to strengthen the core Master of Public Health program at FHS. He efficiently moved with the idea of opening admission to the MPH program to holders of bachelor's degrees in relevant disciplines, starting a 2-year track for the program. This expansion increased enrollment beyond the limited number of MDs and nurses who had sought this program. The immediate result was improvement of the financial situation of FHS at the difficult time of the Civil War, making public health at AUB a reality, because there was some talk about public health, like pharmacy, disappearing. Making survival of public health at AUB a reality, and allowing recruitment of much needed new faculty at the time. In the long run, this expansion also increased the range of specialties of MPH graduates who came to fill growing, diverse positions in public health, locally, regionally, and internationally. Eugene and Rose Gangarosa came to AUB in June 1978, planning to stay. They were faced with a raging civil war and confronted uncertain times and many challenges. Unfortunately, the growing crisis finally forced on them the decision to leave, and Dr. Gangarosa stayed behind alone for almost 1 year until he finally left to join his family in 1981. In his short and productive 3 years as Dean of FHS, Dr. Gangarosa was able to set transformations in motion that contributed distinctively to putting public health at FHS on a path of progress through continuing difficult times and beyond. His legacy lives on, and his memory remains in the hearts of those who knew him as a committed, genuine, generous, humane, and learned person, and of those who worked with him for public health at AUB. Thank you.
Dr. Armenian, you have the floor.
At a meeting in the Department of Public Health in Bahrain, the data on cholera cases were presented, as well as all the control measures that were initiated, including stopping importation of fruits and vegetables and closing a number of restaurants. The head of the department asked, "What else can we do, Dr. Gangarosa?" An investigation was the answer from our expert epidemiologist. But Dr. Gangarosa, we know that cholera is transmitted by the fecal-oral route. Why do we need another investigation? It is important to find out the route of transmission from fecal to oral. In every cholera epidemic, that route may be different. In the Naples epidemic, it was through shellfish. In the Jerusalem epidemic, refreshing vegetables in market stalls with infected water was the mode of transmission. All they needed to do was one specific intervention to stop cholera transmission. It is important that we have as good a diagnosis as possible in epidemiology and public health before we recommend an intervention. Soon, case control and other investigations were initiated in Bahrain. Eugene Gangarosa was a member of a unique generation of epidemiologists and public health leaders at the CDC who made the CDC a world-class institution. Alex Langmuir, D.A. Henderson, Phil Brockman, and Eugene Gangarosa are some of the key players of that group. Over the past couple of years, I have sometimes asked myself whether we would have had as problematic a handling of the COVID-19 pandemic if that generation of epidemiologists were in charge. While having dinner together in the Gulf, our food was delayed being served by some 45 minutes. I like when people take their time in preparing your food, said Gene. For Gene, the luxury of taking his time was not available. Whether while developing the Faculty of Health Sciences in wartime Beirut, or later planting the foundations of one of the great schools of public health at Emory in Atlanta, he had to get it done and move to the next challenges in life. That summer, while working with him on endemic trachoma in the villages of South Lebanon, we discovered that Nadim Haddad's public health was somewhat different from what we had heard in the past semester's public health course. Our daily routine would start early in the morning. We will drive the Land Rover for about 80 plus kilometers to our target villages in the south. We will take a break at noontime under an olive tree, and while munching on our sandwiches, Nadim will shower us with questions for us to think and respond. This is a wonderful open-air classroom where we are learning and analyzing from our field exposure. A few years later, Nadim decided to expand his engagement in public health from the epidemiology of eye diseases to the epidemiology of health services delivery as a public health problem. For him, much could be achieved by impacting and improving health services. We were colleagues in Baltimore at that point in time, and another colleague, Zohair Sabai, who was so much influenced early on from Nadim, was also part of that group of friends that we spent those couple of years there. Whether in Lebanon or in Armenia, we have learned one important lesson. Adversity is an opportunity for positive achievement. And Nadim gave us examples of such achievement with the many adversities in the Lebanon and the region. As some of the early fighting was progressing in Lebanon in 1975, and at this gloomy moment of the history of AUB, Nadim and a few others with support from trustee Najib Halabi decided to move into a bold venture of moving the university outside its walls. The first contract that AUB developed was a health manpower development project with the Ministry of Health of Bahrain. And the project was led by Nadim and set a model that was emulated dozens of times over the next decades. This was a great example of how university faculty could achieve major innovative projects in partnership with an inspirational government minister, Dr. Ali Fakhro. To the end, Nadim was always looking for new solutions for many old problems. He was an innovator on many, many fronts. Yes, we miss him much. Thank you.
President Khoury, Dean Sibai, Dean Noyhead, Dean Zurey, Dr. Arminian, Dean Arminian. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation to the Faculty of Health Sciences for the organization of this evening ceremony to honor the memory of Dean Eugene Gangarosa and Dr. Nadim Haddad, two professionals who have had a major impact on public health and on our lives. May they rest in eternal peace. I have been asked to focus on Dr. Nadim Haddad. I came to know Dr. Haddad in my second year of medical studies as the chair of the newly established scientific committee of the Medical Student Society, whose mandate was to focus on activities related to the development of social programs to the medical students. I was advised by the late Dr. Adil Afifi to invite Dr. Nadim Haddad to be the faculty advisor of this newly established committee. This was the beginning of my long relationship with Dr. Haddad, as well as his with Dr. Arminian, as you just heard. This committee provided us with the opportunity to go into the less privileged communities to undertake immunization campaigns against poliomyelitis that was prevalent then, conduct screening for strabismus, organize regional student conferences on public health, promote blood donation campaigns, and many other activities. These activities offered medical students, an opportunity to learn about the living conditions of the distant communities in Lebanon and to have the opportunity to discuss their thoughts during these trips or under the olive tree, as Harout just mentioned. What Dr. Haddad labeled as seeing the light meant also that the students will become the converted to public health. After graduation, I pursued my doctoral studies at Harvard in the field of health service administration. During these years, I stayed in touch and sought the advice of Dean Louis Verhofstadt and Dr. Nadim Haddad, who had then moved from the Department of Ophthalmology to the School of Public Health as the chair of the Department of Health Service Administration. In July 1974, Dr. Arminian, Dr. Zrey, and myself joined the School of Public Health. In September 1974, Dr. Nadim Haddad had secured a contract with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to educate and train staff in the sciences of management and health administration. This was perhaps the first external program of AUB and of the School of Public Health. This was soon followed by a trip to Bahrain to discuss cooperation along these same lines. This augured a new start and a new dawn to us, junior faculty members, to AUB, to the region, and to public health. I do recall vividly the 30 minutes meeting with His Excellency Dr. Ali Fakhru, the Minister of Health of Bahrain, that ended with a major multi-year contract to the AUB Services Corporation, OPSCO, to support the development of the healthcare system of Bahrain. Perhaps, though, of equal importance was the actualization of the vision of Dr. Haddad and, of course, of Dr. Fakhru to establish teaching ministers of health for the education and training of public health professionals, much akin to the hospital-based residency program for the medical graduates. This vision was later applied in various degrees of success with other countries in the region through REP or through RADAC and then REP. The Bahrain project was also instrumental in refocusing the teaching of public health at AUB from the domains of tropical medicine and parasitic diseases to the development of family medicine program, residencies in health policy, as well as to the development of graduate programs in epidemiology, all with the transformation of the generic Master of Public Health program, but continues to this day, making the AUB School of Public Health the first institution of its kind in the region. In my book, 50 Years in Public Health, I stated the following, and I quote, Dr. Haddad has earned the respect and friendship of all his team, as well as the parties of the contractual agreements, because of his dedication and his enthusiasm he has put in the preparation and implementation of the program. While the Bahrain project was perhaps profitable to the university, profit was a side issue. He cared a great deal about the development of the region. The university and the extension programs owe a great debt to Dr. Haddad. As a mentor to us all, team members, he contributed to our efforts to modernize and develop the sciences of public health. The Bahrain project and Nadim Haddad, thus anchored in this field, to them we owe our conversion to public health. To sum it all, Nadim was above all an unmatched gentleman, a man of virtues and ethical behavior. Professionally, he was an innovator, a man of plans and dreams that we worked hard to implement. His teachings and mentoring were always challenging. He was and will remain a model to us all, although hard to match, whether in academics or in life. As I end this recollection, I cannot forget the supportive role that Mona, his wife, had on Nadim and on us as well. This was a home in the full sense of the word. May God Almighty bless Nadim's soul, and may his role and personality stay with us all. Thank you.
In many ways, Dr. Gangarosa played a similar role at AUB that he did at Emory, where he was really the founder of both schools of public health. His foundation was built on commitment to excellence in science, commitment to solving the most important problems in the world that could be solved, and his commitment to providing for the future. It's very important to him to import his knowledge and his passion into people in the future, the students. I was fortunate to have known Gene when both of us were at the CDC, where he founded one of the best units, the Enteric Disease Unit at CDC, which continues excellence to this day. I know Gene also for his passion for public health, his passion for teaching, his passion for working on his autobiography with his son Ray, and his passion for his wife Rose, a partner for 70 years, who helped him with his mission to improve public health. Thank you so much, Gene and Rose, and good luck.
I've known Dr. Gangarosa for over 43 years. Dr. Gangarosa recruited me to the EIS program at CDC in 1979. His vision was to establish a nurse practitioner training center at the AUB farm to provide primary healthcare services to rural communities. Those plans did not materialize. In 1984, we reconnected when I returned back to Atlanta. Dr. Gangarosa has been my mentor, my advisor, and a great friend throughout my career. He has been an inspiration to all of us, and he'll be greatly missed.
I had the privilege of working for Gene during the early days of our program leading up to our becoming a School of Public Health in 1990. Since then, Gene and I have enjoyed countless conversations over several decades, during which he always expressed such a keen interest in what was happening at Emory and beyond. I know he left such a legacy in your school as he did in ours, and we will be eternally grateful for the generosity that Gene and Rose expressed in so many ways, concluding in our naming the Gangarosa Department of Environmental Health in their honor. Gene will be remembered fondly for always with love and gratitude for all he's meant to us, and I'm sure all he's meant to you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Eugene Gangarosa was my mentor and friend for 30 years at CDC and 22 years teaching at Emory. Gene had a passionate mission to save lives from diarrhea. He developed schools of public health at AUB and Emory. In 1968, he supported me in the first field trial of oral therapy for cholera. He later invited me to visit AUB. He recruited 2 AUB grads for the Rockefeller Fellowship with CDC EIS program. One of them, Dr. Hania Trash, became a global public health leader. In 1985, he recruited me to teach at Emory, and finally he mentored me in philanthropy to return my temporary gain in wealth to future students.
In 1980, my wife Rima Khabbaz and I were medical students at the AUB when we first met Gene Gangarosa. That first meeting literally changed our lives, as it helped us embark on a career course in public health, starting with CDC training in 1980. Dr. Gangarosa has had similar influences on many people around the world. His passion and commitment to public health spanned multiple decades. He taught and mentored until the last year of his life, and endowed universities to help future generations. He made the world a better place and helped save countless lives. We are forever grateful for his life, a life well lived.
I've known the late Dr. Nadim Haddad for the last 30 years, a short period of his dedicated life as a public health guru who talked the talk and walked the walk in establishing sound practice in Lebanon and the region. Dr. Haddad was a down-to-earth role model with high morals and ethics, a symbol of openness, tolerance, nobleness, and humbleness. He was also a continuous learner and teacher, a scholar in the real sense of the word. His legacy will continue through the many leaders he sponsored and the practices he nurtured. He will be missed. Allah yarhamu Dr. Haddad.
I remember talking with Dr. Haddad about 40 years ago in the courtyard of Van Dyke. I was a bit stuck and was seeking his advice. After a while, he stopped me, and with his very serious, confident voice, he said, "Nadim, take a step, in any direction. Sometimes what's ahead for you is not visible from where you stand." Great advice. I saw him again a few years ago in Washington. He was pushing this incredible idea he had and recruiting people to help him. An amazing individual, a great loss for the country and for the region. Somebody who has the vision to think really big, the courage to act on what he thinks, and the humility to bring people along. We will miss you, Nadim.
علاقتي بنديم تعود إلى أكثر من 40 سنة، واشتركت معه في كثير من المشاريع، كثير من البرامج للمملكة العربية السعودية، وسعدت بالتعامل معه، تعلمت منه شيء كثير. رجل كان مليء بالحكمة والمعرفة والرأي الصائب. في كتابي الأخير الذي صدر مؤخراً، حديث الذكريات، كتبت بضعة سطور عن نديم، وقلت فيها بالحرف الواحد: لو إنه عرض علي أن أختار 10 محاضرين متميزين ممن عرفتهم في مسيرتي العلمية، لكان نديم أحدهم. أدعو الله له بالرحمة والغفران، وأن يحسن عزاء كل من عرف نديم هذه القمة.
دكتور حداد من أول الأشخاص اللي تعرفت عليهم لما جيت على أتلانتا بال2015. From our first encounter, which was an AUB Christmas dinner, he got me hooked on his lifelong pursuit to build bridges between academia and practice in public health. And who wouldn't want to subscribe? So what followed for me was a journey of Alice in Wonderland. countless meeting times and connections with new people, with new organizations, and cups of coffee and soup at the Rollins coffee shop, and email exchanges. I will forever miss finding a message from him in my inbox. And those who've had this privilege would know his messages were filled with proverbs, with analogies, with references to Greek mythology, and cryptic titles, random titles like Our Alma Ata or Matryoshka Dolls, which leave you wondering before you open the message, where is this email going? Ma'almi, you left a big gap, not only in my inbox, but in my life. Allah ma'ak.
كان صادق الوعد في كل ما كان يعمله معنا، وكان شريفا إلى أبعد الحدود، وقادرا على أن يعمل بكل معنى الكلمة مع كل شخص أعرفه في البحرين عمل معه. ترك ذكريات جميلة جدا في نفوس الكثيرين من العاملين في الحقل الصحي في البحرين. هو وإخوانه الدكتور حلاب والدكتور نبيل قرنفل غيروا تغييرات جذرية معنا في الحقل الصحي. بنينا كلية العلوم الصحية التي لا تزال موجودة بعد 40 سنة، وخرجت المئات بل الألوف من القوى العاملة. أستطيع أن أقول بأننا معهم، مع هذه المؤسسة الجامعة الأمريكية في بيروت، عملنا الكثير من أجل تغييرات كبرى جذرية في الحقل الصحي ونجحنا فيها، والفضل يعود للمرحوم الدكتور نديم من جهة، وإخوانه الذين أرجو لهم طول العمر من جهة أخرى.
Dr. Haddad was really the type of mentors that you could go to and talk to about anything and everything. I remember I ran to him once. I was panicking. I was newly appointed as the director of a huge center, and I asked him for advices. What he really gave me was more valuable than the advice. He validated my feelings. He said that he lived the same experience and he knows this stressful situation and that he survived it in the past. And I was like, wow, if a legend like him was stressed out, then it's okay that I'm currently stressed out as long as I do my best. And that empowered me and gave me confidence more than I could express or, put into words. Thank you, Dr. Haddad, for being such an inspiration to all of us.
In the memory of Dr. Nadim Haddad, it's very important to mention that he was not only a professor, but also a mentor. He guided us throughout the journey of health management and policy and pushed us to become critical thinkers. He was also our window of opportunity to become certified professionals in healthcare quality. So rest in peace, Dr. Nadim.
Thank you for your tremendous support, and I bet that if you are still alive with us right now, you will still help us for the very last moment. Thank you so much for everything, Dr. Haddad. We were very grateful to know you, and I hope your soul runs in peace.
Salah Fakhouri would like to also share with us a memory. He says, I will never forget the many public health lessons learned from Dr. Gangarosa, and would like to share with you the most effective lesson he taught me. One evening, he took us to Le Nomad, a restaurant in Ras Beirut at that time. When we sat on the table to order our food, Dr. Gangarosa told us, before you order your food, let's go to the restroom.
For the future.
When he entered the restroom, he said, check if they have running water and soap. And then we can order our food. Luckily, the restaurant passed Dr. Gangarosa's test and gave us a lesson that will never be forgotten. To this day, Salah says, every time I go to a restaurant, I practice what he taught me. Thank you for being part of my life. Thank you. أعلمت أشرف أو أجل من الذي يبني وينشئ أنفسا وعقولا. Dean Gangarosa and Dr. Haddad have dedicated their lives to the advancement of public health and their impact on the academic community will be felt for years to come. In this time of loss, we must look forward to the future and ensure that their legacy lives on. Let's now hear from Dr. Christine Mo and Dr. Iman Nwayhed about the support our mentors left for us and for the next generation of students and researchers. Dr. Mo.
Good afternoon. My name is Christine Mo, and I am honored to be the Eugene J. Gangarosa Professor of Safe Water and Sanitation in the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University. I was fortunate to know Eugene Gangarosa as a mentor, co-instructor, and friend for over 30 years. I would like to thank Dean Sabai, Professor Nwayhed, and the organizers of this event for inviting me to share a few comments about Gene. I wish that I could be with you in person or via Zoom, but I am traveling in a remote area at this time, so I have recorded this message. I would like to say a few words about Gene as a scientist, as an educator and mentor, and as a man of vision and philanthropist. First, as a scientist, Gene would explain that his work in the US Army during a typhus epidemic in Italy at the end of World War II is what introduced him to infectious diseases and public health. For most of his research and public health practice career, Gene worked in the area of foodborne and waterborne diseases and led that branch of the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for 15 years. It was during this time that he famously and courageously shut down a national park in the United States in 1975 to stop a large waterborne outbreak of enterotoxigenic E. coli. This was the first time a national park had ever been closed to a disease outbreak, and Gene talked in our class about what a difficult decision this was. Gene's true love as a researcher, however, was cholera, and his groundbreaking work in this field led to the development of oral rehydration therapy, which has saved millions of lives since the 1970s by preventing death from dehydration. Gene was also one of the first investigators to describe the changes to the intestinal villi from enteric bacterial infections. His innovative method to collect biopsy specimens from patients with cholera showed that the intestinal epithelium was intact, and this supported the rationale for treating cholera with oral rehydration therapy. The changes to the intestinal villi that Gene described are now recognized as environmental enteric dysfunction, a serious but hidden health outcome associated with exposure to fecal contamination and chronic enteric infection. We now understand that this condition is linked to intestinal inflammation, malabsorption, stunting, and cognitive impairment, and has a serious impact on young children around the world. Second, Gene was a dedicated educator and mentor. I was fortunate to have taught a course on foodborne and waterborne diseases with Gene for about 30 years, and I saw how the students loved to hear him teach. He not only communicated the science, but explained the historical context and made important connections between the history of public health and the topics in our course. For example, when Gene talked about a disease, he didn't just discuss the microorganism, the epidemiology, and the prevention and control strategy. Instead, Gene talked about typhus as a disease of poor hygiene. He showed a photo of a painting in the Louvre Museum of a young beggar picking lice off his body. He talked about the relationship between Eli Whitney and the invention of the cotton gin, and how that invention enabled low-cost production of cotton textiles and cotton underwear. And he described how the switch from wool underwear to cotton underwear enabled better hygiene and fewer body lice, and that led to a decline in typhus. And he also talked about his personal experience fighting the typhus epidemic in Italy at the end of World War II. Gene talked about his mother and how difficult it was for her to haul water to their home when they lived in Italy. These connections and the stories he told made the field of public health really come alive for our students. They loved his lectures, his stories, and his public health jokes. One year, a student wrote in our course evaluation that Dr. Gangarosa must have had a very nice mother. The students could sense his core goodness and were attracted to him like bees to a honeypot. At the end of each class, I would always see a group of students hanging around to talk with him. And Gene truly lit up when he interacted with the students, even in the past couple years when he was in a wheelchair or teaching via Zoom. It was wonderful to watch that interaction and to learn from him. Third, I would like to talk about Gene as a philanthropist. He was a man of vision with an incredible capacity to see potential. He saw potential in individuals and in institutions, and the potential in building relationships. I am immensely grateful that Gene saw potential in me and invited me to teach with him when I was a young postdoctoral fellow at CDC. And later, he suggested to me that I apply for a faculty position at Emory over 20 years ago. And when Gene saw potential in you, you did your best to live up to that potential. Gene also saw the potential in institutions. During his career, he built the capacity of existing institutions like CDC and AUB, and he launched new institutions like the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory. I watched Gene persuade and bring together a wide range of researchers and practitioners of water, sanitation, and hygiene in Atlanta from multiple academic, government, and NGO institutions. Gene saw the potential of these relationships across institutions and disciplines, and how together we could be more than the sum of the parts. He gently persisted in bringing together these groups of people, meeting after meeting, until we also saw the potential that he saw and shared his vision for multidisciplinary and multi-institutional water and sanitation programs that conduct research, train students, and provide much needed scientific evidence to tackle some of the most critical challenges in health and development. The partnership that he created in Atlanta eventually became our Center for Global Safe Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene at Emory. Gene's amazing ability to see potential also extended to choosing winning stocks in the stock market, and all of us have benefited from his talent. Not only did Gene make wise investments in the stock market, but he and Rose generously chose to invest in us with endowed funds for water and sanitation faculty and scholarship funds for students at Emory, at the College of Charleston, and also support for environmental health faculty and students at AUB. This unparalleled generosity is also a challenge to all of us to be worthy of these investments and in turn to be generous supporters ourselves of these wonderful endowments. Finally, Gene loved AUB. He often spoke of his fond memories of his time at AUB, and it was truly a joy to see Gene and Rose Gangarosa be surrounded by old friends when I accompanied them to Beirut in December of 2014 to attend the 60th anniversary celebration of the Faculty of Health Sciences. That trip and the outpouring of affection they received from you meant so much to them. I would like to close with a quote from Gene's autobiography, which I think characterizes his life philosophy. Gene wrote, "In summary, I see health for all as a shared responsibility for all of us committed to public health. Thus, we see our work, my personal endeavors, our foundation's contributions, and our endowments as investments in the shared responsibility necessary to make possible improved quality of life and health for all." Thank you, Gene and Rose, for your inspiring example, and thanks to all of you for your attention.
Good evening. Over the years, I have interacted with Dr. Nadim Haddad on many occasions and in different capacities. I will focus on 4 of these, which, reflecting back, may best illustrate who Nadim Haddad is. The first was in academic year 1983-1984 at his office at Van Dyke Hall. I was in my last year as medical student at AUB, contemplating public health as a potential career or specialty. I sought then the advice of 4 faculty members at FHS, all medical doctors with public health training. One faculty recommended that I cross the bridge from medicine to public health and never look back. The second advised that I secure a clinical specialty before crossing the bridge. The third warned me that a career in public health is a commitment to a life of frustration and recurrent disappointments. Dr. Nadim Haddad asked questions rather than sharing advice. He asked me of my age, family or financial commitments, whether I had loans to pay or have plans to get married, and even he asked me how many children I plan to have, where if 99% of the goals were achieved, he would focus on the remaining 1%. For me, it was an extreme example of seeking perfection or an endless search. My third interaction with Dr. Haddad spanned over the period of 2004 to 2006 when he was supporting FHS in its application to the Council on Education for Public Health, CEEF, for the accreditation of our Master of Public Health, the MPH program. I was in charge of the service practice chapter of the application report. And again, Dr. Haddad's attention to details and his insistence to read between the lines of the accreditation requirements was impressive and occasionally unnerving. While I focus on what is exactly requested by CEEF and justifying what FHS is missing, he pushed me and the subcommittee to dig for more evidence and go beyond what is written in the manual. He warned us that in general, but specifically in our case, as the first MPH program ever to seek accreditation from outside North America, we cannot take any risks with the accrediting body and the examiners. He said that many external reviewers, quote, are wolves dressed in the skin of sheep, end of quote. A thread of Nadim Haddad's thinking and approach was slowly forming in my mind. However, it was my last interactions with him, and he was well into his 80s, that I started to understand and highly appreciate his thinking. By then, I was the dean of FHS, and 2 new centers were established next to the Center for Research on Population and Health. Next slide, please. Center CRPH, established in 2002 under Dean Huda Zorek. The 2 centers were the Center for Public Health Practice, CPHP, and the Knowledge to Policy, K2P Center. FHS adopted a model where the 3 dimensions of public health, generating research scholarship, providing service and practice, and informing policy, were reflected in the 3 respective centers surrounding and enriching the academic programs and student learning, while interacting with a wide network of regional and international academic and non-academic institutions. Nadim, being Nadim, focused on the missing piece of this model. The missing piece of the puzzle, I would say, was at the core of Dr. Haddad's professional career. Dr. Haddad's obsession until the last day of his life was the public health professional. For him, it was all about those practicing public health in the real world. Are they properly trained? Do they have the needed skills and competencies? How can we assess if they do? How to keep them qualified? And what is the role of academic public health, and specifically FHS, in all of this? Only when I connected the dots did I understand the essence of my key interactions with Nadim Haddad. When I expressed my interest in studying public health as a fresh medical graduate, he was not confident that I had a clear understanding of what public health is and what being a public health professional entails. He worried that my untested decision to pursue such a career may crack under the pressure of future family and financial demands for a medical doctor whose career as a clinician would have been clearer and perhaps more stable. When he opined that our public health program to medical students was incomplete, he was missing two key indicators. One, how many of these medical students will choose public health as a career? And two, for those who do not, how many will comprehend their potential contribution to public health in their roles as practicing physicians? When he asked the subcommittee to reimagine the service practice component of our CEF application report, what he missed was the lack of our attention to public health professionals, those practicing public health at ministries of health, primary health centers, NGOs, and other entities. He perceived of our role as a leading school of public health as going beyond handing the MPH degree to our graduates. For Nadim Haddad, it's only after receiving the degree that public health learning and education begins and never ends. Dr. Haddad was a strong advocate for the academic health department model in public health education, as you heard before. And this is a memo. I think it's a classic email where everything is well stated there. You have a structure, process, outcome, all in an email. I think this might be one of his last, or maybe the last email he sent to Dr. Qasim Qasak. For him, the Ministry of Public Health to fresh MPH graduates is what a hospital is for fresh medical graduates. He recommended that all MPH graduates who are at the core of public health professionals should pursue 2 and maybe 3 years of training rotating between ministries of health, NGOs, WHO, other UN agencies, and entities engaged in public health. Complementary to the concept of academic health departments, he stressed the need to professionalize the profession by requesting public health professionals to sit for certification or qualifying examinations, no different than board certification or the like in clinical medicine. Dr. Haddad put his words into action. Last year, he reached out with the help of Dr. Qasim Qasak to a number of MPH students in the health management and policy concentration and secured funds to cover their examination fees to become a certified professional in healthcare quality. In addition, his family honored his love to FHS by endowing the Dr. Nadim Haddad MPH Academic Achievement Award. Public health education and learning for Dr. Nadim Haddad fell on a spectrum that starts with the selection of the right candidates for MPH education, going through the classroom learning and education, practicum training as part of the MPH, and then the mentor training in different public health settings, certification, and continuing public professional development. The image was crystal clear for Nadim Haddad. It was a comprehensive A to Z plan, which proved challenging for many of us at FHS to adopt as our responsibility. We may have failed our beloved Nadim Haddad in this respect, but not for lack of conviction in his vision, but for competing priorities and the preference to focus on the academic programs and research. I take this opportunity to promise Nadim that his dream, his vision, will hopefully be fulfilled in the near future. One, FHS has embarked on an exercise with WHO AMRO to map public health professionals in the region. Interestingly, post-MPH training, professionalization, and continuing professional education surfaced strongly in our interviews with many public health experts. Two, Dean Abla Sbai is committed to bringing together schools and programs of public health in the region under the umbrella of an academic public health network. This network of schools and programs, together with WHO AMRO and Ministries of Public Health, can aim at fulfilling Dr. Nadim Haddad's vision. It's bigger than a school. I'm confident that Dr. Haddad will know when this happens, and he will smile at FHS as a sign of appreciation. However, I have no doubt that he will be critical and have something new to say or expect, except that now he will speak through his students. Whenever I asked Nadim Haddad when he left or will visit FHS, he always asserted, and I quote, "I never left FHS, nor Van Dyke Hall and its courtyard," and he always missed the pool. He always referred to the pool in the courtyard that we took away as a gathering place and a fountain of new ideas. Nadim Haddad, you never left FHS, and you will never leave FHS. You will be dearly missed. May you rest in peace. Thank you.
Doctors Gangarosa and Haddad were loving husbands and fathers, and it's an honor to have their sons, Dr. Raymond Gangarosa and Mr. Haytham Haddad, join us today to share with us their thoughts and memories about the lives of these two mentors. Dr. Gangarosa, the floor is yours.
I'd like to thank AUB for honoring my father in this way. My parents and two siblings knew Nadim Haddad well, and I visited him in Beirut in 1980. In my father's book, But Now They Are Angels, he paid tribute to all the people who are honoring him today. I'm going to show you some images of his life, and I'm going to go over these quickly because I know we're running out of time. He had two birthdays because the midwife didn't register him in time at the time he was born. And so he was the oldest man in the world when he died at age 96. He started his career at age 18 in the Army as a quartermaster, serving in the Naples outbreak of typhus, and his career was legendary from there. My mother and he were married for 72 years. They were wonderful partners. These are images from his groundbreaking study in cholera pathogenesis in 1958 and 1959 in Bangkok, Thailand, which set the stage for oral rehydration therapy. It's typical of my father that his achievement was a humble one that enabled mothers to save their own children where doctors are not available. This achievement saved tens of millions of lives since he did malaria research at the Pakistan Medical Research Center. And here he is with Sam Asper and his wife Anne at AUB. He transformed two schools of public health at AUB and the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory. My sister Peggy went to AUB as a medical student and then went on to a career in pathology. She died in 2012 of renal carcinoma, and we miss both she and my father more than words can tell. Here are pictures of their 70th wedding anniversary and their renewal of wedding vows. They received honorary degrees from the College of Charleston in 2018. My mother would serenade my father during his naps, and he would never hear any mistakes. Here he is with 4 of his brothers. He was a gentle giant who contributed to every major development in enteric disease epidemiology during his 78-year career, but he was humble and self-deprecating in every way. On behalf of his family, thank you for honoring Eugene Gangarosa in this way.
Good evening. Our dad's professional career is well known, so I thought I'd share with you some personal memories from our childhood. And I must say that our mom, a math teacher, a ballet teacher, and an amazing chef, is his equal in all aspects. Okay. The title is The Boss of the King. When we were kids, our dad would drop us off at the OUB medical gate. That's how we called it at the time. And OUB became a household name since. We'd run toward this majestic banyan tree, our own Tarzan tree, by the assembly hall. We'd play around the tree, climb its tangled branches, perch below its canopy, and hide and seek. It was our castle and our refuge. Several decades later, my dad used the banyan tree as a symbol to his work. This tree is famous for its aerial roots that sprout from branches and eventually reach the soil. An appropriate analogy, thinking outside the box. Our dad, who came up with his nickname, was Boss of the King, would always challenge us at work and at home as well. His nickname stuck during his entire life, the Boss of the King. When we were kids, our father would tell us stories each night, and we'd huddle and listen to his Shatir Hassan stories, improvised of course. Years later, I took the baton. As an ophthalmologist in his early career, he decided to switch to public health for various reasons, chiefly because of internal politics. Interestingly, our dad was colorblind. Our parents would always make us eat whatever food was served at the table. The dilemma, our dad didn't like butter at all. So knowing that, every day at breakfast, his 4 boys, Assam, Haytham, Layth, and Juwain, would pass him the butter. And he'd say very quickly, "Too late, I'm already full." When we were kids and we happened to be around our dad finishing a letter, he'd write his signature, Nadim Haddad, by hand, followed by a full stop and a whisper, "Shh," as it were a secret code. As teenagers, when we had a decision to make, such as going camping in the mountains with friends, in the mountains of the friends, we'd ask our father permission. His typical response, "Use your judgment," which we did usually. 4 boy camps. My father was driving me back home from school one day. I was around maybe 14 years old at that time, when a taxi cab cut us off, slammed the brakes, and nearly hit our car. The taxi driver jumped out of his vehicle, pulled my dad out of his car, and hugged him in tears with joy. I didn't know that was going on. It turned out that the taxi driver, one of the young boys selling chiclets on the streets of Beirut, had recognized my father after so many years. This is how I learned about the boys' camps. The Volunteers Club of the UB graduates that my dad and a couple of his friends had established. I'd like to end this with this beautiful quote. If you can imagine it, you can achieve it. if you can dream it, you can become it. This is by William Arthur Hart. That's it.
Thank you. So with this, we come to the end of this tribute. When a man dies, his deeds come to an end, except for three: a continuous charity, knowledge by which people derive benefit, pious son who prays for him. Today, we are the witness of two mentors with good deeds. We thank you all for joining us today and for being part of this celebration of their lives. Thank you.